Councillor Fielder.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank all Executive Policy Committee members as well as councillors for their input on this budget. I want to thank Mayor Cates for your leadership and also our administration for your hard work throughout the process. Very happy that we had some pre-budget consultations to hear from our citizens in regards to this budget, and also to have, I know at Executive Policy Committee we had over 24 delegations, which we were able to make some changes to the budget. But I can tell you, since I've been here, this is probably the most challenging budgets that we faced really in the last number of years. And I can tell you it is getting more difficult to deliver our core services that we have for our citizens in terms of our revenue streams that we do have brought in. We had to make some tough decisions, some decisions that I personally wouldn't like to make, but I think we had to make for the long-term stability of this organization. This budget really focuses in on public safety while delivering core services for our citizens. For me, the very most important thing is to address the crime problem here in the city of Winnipeg. Crime is something that impacts families, it impacts neighborhoods, it impacts the quality of life for our citizens, and it impacts the growth and development of our fair city. We have also some many challenges that we have in terms of the infrastructure deficit that we have here with the limited resources that are there. On the positive front, Mr. Speaker, I think our city's made some incredible strides as a city. When you look at our competitive tax environment that we have now here in the city, from property taxes through business taxes, you look at the global economic storm that we had that went through across the country, I think we handled it quite well. And also in terms of Winnipeg being a place for people investing. You have IKEA coming back, you talk of an NHL team. I was reading in the paper today about the amount of hotels that are being built. This year is higher than the last 10 years. So we're making some very good strides as well. And I'm very proud of this budget in terms of the future direction we're having for our citizens here in Winnipeg. In terms of our investments in public safety this year, you're going to see more police officers on the street to catch criminals and keep our community safe. Our citizens have told us loud and clear in the last election campaign that they want a safer city. They want a city where they don't have to worry about walking around with their family downtown. They want a city where they're not reading about us in national newspapers about horrific crimes happening on our streets. More resources dedicated to public safety to fight crime and catch criminals is important. And this budget also puts more money into 911 services to help with response times. Overall, the police budget is growing to $202 million, which is over a $12 million increase from last year, or a 6.4% increase. You're going to see 97 more officers and cadets on the street, which fulfills part of Mayor Cates' commitment. You're going to see a police helicopter. You're also going to see, as I mentioned, some communication staff. All totaled, more than 121 personnel will be focused in on public safety here in the city as opposed to last year. The budget also extends our commitment to the Downtown Watch program. This is something that will be transitioned to the police cadets over in the 2012 while the cadets are fully trained. I think this is something that will please the Chief of Police, the Downtown Biz, and all other agencies that are there. The budget for first responders is going to $143.5 million, a $5.7 million increase. I know the men and women of the police are here today to support this, and there's 20 new firefighters that we added at Sage Creek to help with response times, which I think is a very important step in the right direction. All totaled, fire and police budget takes up about 41% of this budget, which is up from 31% just 10 years ago. Property taxes. Extremely happy that the property tax has been extended for 14 consecutive years. I can tell you that we believe that property tax is one of the most regressive forms of taxation that is out there. And we're happy to maintain that commitment to a property competitive tax environment here in the city of Winnipeg. Over the next, we've taken a lot of criticism over the last number of years to that policy where we're addressing a competitive tax environment. But I can tell you, over the last 10 years, the same period where City of Winnipeg has not increased property taxes, if you're a resident of the City of Edmonton, your property taxes would have gone up by 55%. You're from Calgary, 47%, Vancouver, 48%, Saskatoon, 41%, and Regina, 27%. So I'm going to make no bones about it. I think we've been very fiscally responsive for our taxpayers the last number of years, which I think makes it important. Whether you agree with our tax policies here or you disagreed over the last number of years, one thing is conclusive, is that we're one of the lowest tax jurisdiction in the country, which I think is a very important step. Business taxes. Also happy that smallest businesses are going to get a bit more of a tax break here to help create jobs here in the City of Winnipeg. We're extending our business tax credit program You're going to see it grows from 3.18 million to 3.5 million, mainly funded through growth. What that means is 38% of businesses here in the city of Winnipeg will not have to pay the job-killing business tax, or 4,661 businesses. Because of this document, another 276 businesses won't have to pay the business tax. We've also made some important investments in places like Assiniboine Park. Our commitment, our grant grows to $10.7 million, up 3.1. This, of course, is the first year where total operations is taken over to Assiniboine Park. The city of Winnipeg is very pleased with this progress. All totaled, our capital operating expenditures to the park have gone up by over 17.4%. The total tax-supported budget represents $847 million, which is about a $29.7 million increase. Revenues, as we mentioned, what makes up the $27.9 million, you're seeing some property tax revenue growth to the tune of $4.8 million. That doesn't include all the tax credit programs that are out there. The business tax is capped at just over $57 million. A little bit less money for electric and gas tax because of the hydro issue that we debated last year. One element that has been talked a lot about is in terms of the frontage levies. It's going up by $1.20 from $2.55 to $3.75 per property. What's important to note about the frontage levies, it hasn't increased since 2001. Yet construction inflation during the same period of time has gone up by over 72%. So the project it goes to fund it have dramatically gone up, which is causing, I know what Councillor Wyatt talks about in terms of the infrastructure deficit. Frontage levies are 100% dedicated to revenues that are there, and we feel that our investments in these areas will help to address the infrastructure deficit as we move forward. We believe it's a form of user fee and should be linked to construction inflation to allow us not to fall any further back for it. All total, it's going to bring in over 13.3 million. There's also some growth in terms of new volume and some work that we did last year. I know frontage levies is something that opposition councillors have supported in the past as more of an equitable form of revenue. So I'm interested to see if there's any revisionist history in terms of their stance way back when the New Deal was introduced. Utility dividend. The budget also includes a new utility dividend for water and sewer services. We peg this at 8% of water and sewer sales, very similar to what other Canadian cities are doing. You look at what Calgary does, they've got a 10% dividend that's a part of their water and sewer rates. Calgary has about an 8% dividend that's a part of it. Also very consistent with what Winnipeg Hydro did when we owned Winnipeg Hydro, where they took over a 12% dividend, which represent about 16% to the city on an annual basis. And I know this is something that was quite supported by my good friend Councillor Gerbasi when she was one of the chief architects of the budget, was very supportive of this. So at the end of the day, the city owns 100%, all the pipes, all the sewer, all the pavements that are associated with the water utility. We take on great risk to borrow the money on behalf of the water and sewer. We manage the construction projects. We also deliver clean water supply. So we think it's fair and reasonable to have a return on investment in terms of these practices. In terms of some people have talked about in terms of impact later on down the line when you look at rates. Well, we meet in fall to look at rates. You look at expenditures, you look at revenues, you look at retained earnings, you also look at what capital projects can be done, the debt versus rate ratios, and also provincial requirements. One thing that we've made perfectly clear is we're not interested in doing ill-conceived nitrogen removal process where it's anywhere between $365 million of money that's going to be wasted by the taxpayers. These rates were built into the models that are there, and I think you're going to see in fall a choice for councillors if they want to include that a part of the rates or not. So we think that overall the 10-year plan for any rates that are part of it will be very comparable, won't have substantial impact for ratepayers. In terms of expenditures, as I mentioned, it's gone up by 29.7%, very similar to last year, just over 30%. Overall, it was about a 3.6% increase. Every department got about a 2% increase except for fire.
Councillor Barati moves extension. All those in favor?
As well as fire, that got a 4% increase in terms of their budgets. The public works budget is going up by $4 million, increased $2 million for some work in terms of the flood relief. There's some money in terms of the 60% biological movement that we're talking about. Community services has gone up by $2.6 million. Large part of that is the Assiniboine Park grant, which we talked about before. We also heard quite conclusively from our residents in terms of that we should be investing more in libraries, so we're very happy that the Millennium Library will now have extended hours. You're having free Y service for our libraries, as well as to places like the North End Recreation Center and the Pan Am Pool. We also heard from the library board during our delegations that we should be putting more money into library materials. So we're very happy to increase their annual grant, if you will, to upwards of $25,000 a year to address new technologies that are there. Recreational fees. Well, I can tell you that these are tough decisions that we had to make. And the City of Winnipeg has moved towards more of a cost recovery for our services. I can tell you a large amount of these services are costing exponentially more to deliver the service than we're actually taking in. So we had to make some tough choices. Are these decisions that we wanted to make? No, but it's probably better than eliminating the service overall, and we think that it makes more sense to move towards a user fee that's associated with it. Also very happy that we were able to include some money for the Children's Museum. We put over $276,000 over 3 years, $92,000 for the next year, so they can expand their building, but they can also expand their programming that's there, that the citizens of Winnipeg can come and can enjoy for a long period of time. Our transit grant has also gone up by about $1.4 million, which goes from 143 to 151. Been some talk in terms of long-term strategies for the City of Winnipeg. What the City of Winnipeg is committed to is strengthening the performance measurement standards that are there, the financial framework that's part of it. The financial plan is coming through Council, I believe, tomorrow. And there's also a debt strategy that we'll be reviewing with our bond raters as we move forward. So in conclusion, the budget, of course, is not a perfect document. There's a large amount of decisions that we didn't want to make, but we felt was important. What is important is we took more into account what our citizens are saying in terms of the public safety element that's there, more police officers in the street, more firefighters to help address issues for our citizens, and we've extended some of our services towards library services and kids and support for kids. So with that, I'll leave my comments at this point and look forward to hearing all of your comments throughout the next few hours.